is CNN.
Larry King Live is brought to you by Turner Broadcasting and your local cable operator. Welcome to a special edition of Larry King Live. The North American Free Trade Agreement, a deal to knock down trade barriers between Mexico, Canada, and the United States. Good or bad for Americans? Tonight, Vice President Al Gore meets Ross Perot as Larry King and CNN present the NAFTA debate. Now from Washington, Larry King.
Good evening. We need to tell you off the top about some ground rules that have been agreed to by the Vice President, Mr. Perot, and CNN. We have no studio audience here. Neither the Vice President nor Mr. Perot have any staffers in the studio, nor may they talk with any assistants during the telecast. No representatives of either side are in the control room while we are on the air. Our guests may use notes, visual aids if they wish. We have no debate clock. This is no formal statement and rebuttal format. There's no time limit on questions or answers. The program will go 90 minutes. To be fair about deciding who got to sit where, we tossed a coin earlier today. Vice President won and chose the inside seat. Viewer calls will be screened and chosen by the producer of this program, who will make every effort to assure balance. The call-in number in the United States is 202-408-1666. Overseas, 202-408-4821. 202-408-4821. We'll give you those numbers again later. We'll start with the Vice President. We're going to wing back and forth and then include your phone calls. When President Bush signed this in San Antonio, he was on our show, and then a few nights later I was with you and the then Governor, now President-elect Clinton, asked about this, NAFTA, and the President said, to the best of my memory, well, I'm basically for it. I want to see the side agreements. I want to hear what the unions object to, and then I'll come back and sort of let you know. But it was not a definitive yes. What changed?
Well, we negotiated two side agreements that protect labor and protect the environment. And not until the two side agreements were completed did we agree to support NAFTA. Now, this is a good deal for our country, Larry, and let me explain why.
But you were hedging early.
Well, we said from the very beginning that we wanted to improve the basic arrangement, which we did with these side agreements. And the reason why this is so important can be illustrated by the story of a good friend of mine that I grew up with named Gordon Thompson, who lives in Elmwood, Tennessee, with his wife Sue and his son Randy. He makes tires for a living. He's a member of the United Rubber Workers, and he's for this because he's taken the time to look at how it affects his job and his family. We make the best tires in the world, but we have a hard time selling them in Mexico because they have a 20% tax collected at the border on all of the tires that we try to sell. Now, when they make tires and sell them into the United States, the tax at the border is zero. So it's a one-way street. NAFTA changes that. It makes it even Steven.
So he'll make more tires.
Well, his job will be more secure. They'll make more tires. They'll be able to sell more tires. His son will have a better chance of going into that line of work if that's what he should decide he wants to do. And remember this, I mean, people think, well, they don't buy tires. Mexico bought 750,000 new cars last year. The big three sold them only 1,000 because they have the same barriers against our cars. Those barriers will be eliminated by NAFTA. We'll sell 60,000, not 1,000, in the first year after NAFTA. Every one of those cars has 4 new tires and 1 spare. We'll create more jobs with NAFTA.
Weren't you a free trader always, Ross?
I am a free trader now.
Do you favor some sort of NAFTA?
Absolutely.
Then what's your rub?
The problem is this is not good for the people of either country. Yes. I think the important thing for everybody watching this show tonight to remember, this is not an athletic contest. This is not a question of who wins, whether I win or the Vice President wins. This is a question of, do the people of the United States and the people of Mexico win? Now, that's the important issue, and I'm sure we're in agreement on that. My concern is very simple. I look at many years' experience in the Maquiladora program. And here is what I see. We have a lot of experience in Mexico. I've been accused of looking in the rearview mirror. That's right. I'm looking back at reality. And here is what I see after many years. Mexican workers' life, standard of living, and pay has gone down, not up. After many years of having U.S. companies in Mexico, this is the way Mexican workers live all around big new U.S. plants. Now, just think if you owned a big U.S. company and you went down to see your new plant and you found slums all around it, your first reaction would be, why did you build this plant in the middle of slums? And your plant manager would say, oh, there were no slums here when we built the plant. You say, well, why are they here now? They said, this is where the workers work.
Your agreement would have been a different NAFTA, right?
This would be a NAFTA that gives the people... Now, what are the rules here? I answer his questions or yours?
Well, mine or both. This is freewheeling.
But the point being, there it is. Here it is on a more personal basis. Livestock in this country and animals have a better life than good, decent, hardworking Mexicans working for major U.S. companies. And here's one just to look at. Here's a good, decent man working his heart out, making his cardboard shack, and the cardboard came from boxes that were used to ship the goods down there.
Can I say something about this?
I didn't interrupt you.
Okay, now, guys.
Now maybe it just...
Is this... now, your concept would have been what, Ross? If this was a
all
bad
I'm saying is if after 10 active years, this has been in effect since the 60s, but let's say 10 active years, you would think the standard of living of the Mexican worker would begin to come up. Instead, it continues to go down by design. 36 families own over half the country.
So
85 million people work for them in poverty. U.S. companies, because it is so difficult to do business in this country, can't wait to get out of this country and go somewhere else, and, if possible, get labor that costs 1/7 of what it costs in the United States.
How would you change it? How would you change it?
Very simply, I would go back and study. First, we should look at this. It doesn't work.
Well, what specific changes would you make in it?
I can't, unless you let me finish, I can't answer your question. Now, you asked me, and I'm trying to tell you.
All right. Well, you brought your charts tonight, so I want to know what specific changes you would like to make in the treaty.
If you're against it, let him respond.
How can I answer if you keep interrupting?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Now, first, study the things that work. The European community has had a similar experience. They got to Spain, Portugal, countries like that, where the wages were different, people didn't have rights, so on and so forth, and they made them come up the economic scale. In 1904, Theodore Roosevelt wrote a beautiful, simple statement. And basically, he said something very similar to what Congressman Gephardt recently said. He said, under no circumstances can we lower the standard of living of the working American. Therefore, any trade agreement we enter into must require a social tariff, I would say, that makes it an even playing field, then gives Mexico an incentive to raise the standard of living of its people, which it does not have now.
Okay, can I respond now?
The standard of living of people.
Okay.
Now, so your basic response is you would change it by raising tariffs.
I just started, but you interrupted.
On
That's
Mexico.
The first thing I would do. So the
Right.
first thing I would do.
Okay, now, I've heard Mr. Perot say in the past that, as the carpenter says, measure twice and cut once. We've measured twice on this. We have had a test of our theory, and we've had a test of his theory. Over the last 5 years, Mexico's tariffs have begun to come down because they've made a unilateral decision to bring them down